Thank you very much.
Anna.
Oh, yeah, I would agree with Eric. I might just ask a question,
Sure.
but it's kind of maybe more relaxed. How do you know, can you tell more about the gap? How did you find out that there is a gap in knowledge sharing in Saudi Arabia, in that sector you are just investigating?
Actually, it is knowledge management in construction industry. It is a very new methodology. It is not that either in UK or US. It is not that much used using by construction industry. But from our experience, we find that normally the techniques start there. Then they grab it as it is and try to implement it in our ministry or in our industry, or without adapting for our specific national culture. And to avoid this problem in the future, I prefer to investigate the current situation to help that three directorate when they think to adopt knowledge management. Please be aware about that.
Hassan, the question is, how did you identify the gap? How would you know that there is such a gap in knowledge management within this practice?
I said,
isn't that your question?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
that's it.
It is from two sides. I believe that knowledge management practices is not that much used there. And from my experience working with that department, we find the same problem as Professor Sharif said just one moment ago, that many things you do it, and by the end of the day you find your colleagues is do it in another way, and that spend the time, spend the money. If we adopt proper knowledge management system, which in line with national culture of that stuff, that will reduce the cost, reduce the time, and help us to make effective using of that department in general.
So basically, identifying the gap was not from the literature.
It was
personal
more experience.
Yes.
Thank you.
John, back to you.
The last one I had on his question
Please
is,
do.
you would include a demographics section which would actually determine the extent of knowledge of the subject before you start. Because if you ask somebody that knows nothing about it, he's going to answer it differently than somebody that knows a lot about it. So just the suggestion is that you actually, as part of the collection of who you are and all of that, you said, how much do we know about the subject?
And I think
what is put it in a different way. What John is saying is that apart from collecting the demographic information, is what sort of criteria you're going to use to select your respondents?
I don't have any choice because I use three general directorate. I need to deal with them.
Yes, who are they? The cleaners?
No, the engineers.
Okay, whatever
the decision
criteria you're
makers.
going to use.
Normally I will use because in our general directorate there are different level of people working, as he said, from cleaner to the.
I'm sorry, with all respect to cleaners, I don't mean anything. Yeah, but you know what I mean, yeah.
I agree. Okay, so in other words, you should ask the question, what do you know about, do you understand the questionnaire? That's the real question.
No, it's not like that.
I said, I think it's important when you ask the respondent to also ask their background or their qualifications, so information about it. Then you can have a lot of analysis can be done on that one.
And this is in demographic part of Hofstede dimension. What level you are, how long you've been in that. This will be in first or last part of my question.
Hassan, can you go to your literature review slide?
The main finding?
Here. Somewhere you mentioned the 9% national culture influence, knowledge sharing.
Yeah, it was around here.
Here.
Yeah.
It's
not,
yeah, that one. It's that study was done somewhere else.
Yeah.
But which country is that? Just not related to.
I'm not sure right now which country.
Because
I
if
can't
it
check
is
it out.
like if you generalize this one, so their answer is there. 9% national culture to influence knowledge sharing.
There's some cultural factors that could be
No.
organisational
Yes.
culture,
This is the
national culture.
It's not just
Just
culture.
socio-psychological
But question is saying national culture.
No, the question is saying
No, I'm just saying
He's being so smart about it. that culture, frankly,
Yeah,
is just so many things, including national culture. I would expect national culture of about 5 to 10% out of that.
Yeah.
But in reality, I think it's organizational culture.
It's also
One more question. Earlier, actually, this one was asked. You said that mostly the employees are Arabs, so it doesn't matter the origin. Can be from other country, but basically the similar dimensions or index can be applied to those people too. But still, I mean, that heavily international companies heavily involved there, and they are interacting with those companies. Not maybe they are working there, but somehow they're working there. They're taking, giving, they're basically sharing knowledge in some extent, right? So, do you still, don't you consider
Actually, I'm
maybe
focusing
looking at that direction? Because when you go to that Hofstad dimensions and comparing Australia against Saudi Arabia, yeah, that one. So for example, IDD index, 90 against 44. So huge difference. Again, the PDI, like 35 or 36,
56
against 64.
Yeah,
So
almost
huge
half.
difference. And
Yeah.
you know, let's say affecting whole project management understanding. So in that case, when they are interacting with the international companies, that could be Australian, that could be Japanese. So do you think that will not affect their understanding, knowledge sharing?
Theoretically, maybe there are some interaction, but in practical, and here Fahad, he used to work with some of that international company. Most of the engineers dealing with the government sector are Arab people, to reduce the conflict in, because all things are written in Arabic and all. In my life, 18 months, not that much, but I didn't meet any other than Arab people in that departments. So in other way also I'm focusing for internal knowledge sharing, not with that. Yeah.
But you can't uniform the understanding, because we are talking about educated Arabs, engineers.
Yeah.
So as yourself, and some of them are trained somewhere else. But when you compare that on a locally trained Arab engineer, probably quite different than internationally trained Arab people. So I'm not saying that's I don't have any evidence to prove that one, but I mean it's worth to look at that direction too, because you can't say, well, when you go to any conference, and here in this university you can see a lot of international people. They are quite different. I'm not Turk anymore. I'm just like I'm quite different. You know, that's. That's
Did you record that? Okay, I love this point. Okay, but let's start by the first point. This is not about defending it. This is just for everybody to share here. I think your first point is valid. The focus of this work is project knowledge and project information. As an employee working for a public sector, I might be interacting with what you say, Japanese firm, whatever, within that project. Once a project is finished and this company has no longer association with us, I have gained some knowledge. But the question is, how much of that knowledge is shared among my group, department, unit to alleviate future problems in similar projects? So the role of the Japanese company, the role of the German contractor, all that disappeared, has is no longer exist in the domain or within the domain that we're looking for. Okay, so I might have gained that, but if I'm not sharing with anyone, you know what? Big deal. It doesn't really count to the organizational knowledge that we're looking for. So that's the answer to the first question. The second question is trained overseas or trained nationally. Again, this is my experience, is that regardless of the type of training you have, when you work in an environment that is dominated by a certain national culture, somehow over time you become part of that culture. And you put it very nicely when I say no longer, but you put you back in a company in Turkey that is dominated by and give you 6 months. You won't be saying that.
Very quick.
Yeah,
Come back to